Paul Love Endowment Lecture. Every year, the Study Center for Indian Literature in English, the American College, and the old students of Paul Love come together to celebrate his life and his significant contributions. The Endowment Lecture Series is an act of remembering and paying tribute to the teacher who has hugely impacted and transformed the lives of hundreds of students. We are delighted that Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan, a fascinating person deeply in love with India, its art and culture, will deliver the Endowment Lecture. Today's program is very special for yet another reason. The grandsons, the granddaughter, and the great-grandson of Reverend William Zumbro, American College's second principal from 1899 to 1922, are with us today. We are happy that Mr. Corey Stixroot, the principal of Kodaikanal International School, and Ruth Godwin are here with us at this program. This year's Paul Love Endowment Lecture is truly a celebration of this great and enduring Indo-American partnership of which Reverend Zumbro and Dr. Paul Love and Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan are a significant part. We now stand for the prayer song by Professor Stewart and Mr. Ryan. Please be seated. Thank you, Stuart and Ryan. We invite Dr. Premila Paul, the director of SCILET, to introduce the program.
Good morning, friends. Team SCILET is very happy to welcome all of you to the 7th edition of Paul Linda Love Endowment Lecture. I thank the Principal and Secretary, Dr. Davmani Christopher, for encouraging us to conduct this lecture year after year. I welcome the Vice Principal, Martin David, Bersa Beulah, other college officers, students and teachers of the English Department of the American College, and other colleges. Paul Jaker, I thank you. RP also, I thank you for encouraging the students to attend this program. I'm very happy that Lady Doe College and Meenakshi College invariably respond to our invitation so enthusiastically. I'm happy Thiagaraja has also joined us today. A very warm welcome to Corey, the principal of Kodaikanal International School, and his colleague. Paul Love used to hold you in great esteem. He enjoyed working with you on the board, and year after year, you have extended the school's hospitality to our students, and you have provided space and the right kind of ambience for our annual creative writing workshops. So far, we have conducted 30 workshops in Kodaikanal International School. So this takes us to the Kodaikanal School SCILET collaboration for 30 years, and there will be many, many more. We welcome you. And this is the first time probably you are attending this lecture, and I know that every time people from the hills come to descend and come to the plains, there has to be a special reason. And this time, Debbie Thiagarajan is the real attraction. We are very honored that we have with us the celebrated art historian and anthropologist and the custodian of South Indian culture, Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan, here with us. Debbie is often referred to as the gift of America to India because she has helped us understand our own culture better. She has also helped us understand in a way our worth better. This event, in a sense, is an extension of the celebration of the Indo-American bond, as Joel just mentioned, that began on 12th October with the arrival of the junior Zamros, Bill, Mike Sr., Heidi, and Mike Jr. Yesterday, we celebrated the love story of Zamro, his love for Madurai, the love for its people, and the love for American college. Today, we celebrate the love story of yet another remarkable human being, Dr. Paul Love, an amazing leader and an equally amazing institution builder. There was abundant love that he carried with him, showed in his actions. He carried that also in his name. Deborah is Madurai's own daughter-in-law. Deborah's life is another marital migration love story. Her personal love for Raj Thiagarajan, combined with the academic love for anthropology, led to passionate involvement in promoting the diverse Indian cultures. And this led to her institution building of DakshinaChitra. All three of them, Reverend Zamro, Paul Love, and Deborah, are not mere knowledge seekers. They have shown a deep emotional connect with India, deep bond with India, which really did not necessitate the denial of American identity. They could absorb the very best in another culture, enrich themselves, and also make life meaningful for themselves and for those around them. When we talk about their lives or their love stories of these high achievers, the striking common denominator that I find is their deep respect for the local culture, local people, and the local knowledge. They saw themselves as partners in their projects and pursuit. They are both learners and givers, constantly promoting cultural conversations. At times, it takes an American to wake us all up to the awareness and appreciation of our rich culture, understanding of our self-worth, and also to lead us to the preserving of our own cultural heritage. That is exactly what Deborah Thiagarajan specializes in. Zamro and Paul Love made Madurai home. Debbie made Chennai her home. She ditched Madurai and went to Madras. And there she spread her wings and love beyond Chennai and included Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh. DakshinaChitra that she has built up and continues to nurture is a remarkable success story. It's a surprise story, a story of pride and joy for all who come into contact with her and DakshinaChitra. SCILET is a labor of love, an outcome of a collective dream willed into reality by Dr. Paul Love and Professor Padmanabhan Nair. They had fierce determination to make things happen. I remember Raj Thiagarajan once made a statement, start small, but think big. And that is exactly how SCILET grew. Paul Love was a stern and sensitive person, a unique blend of courage and compassion. I'm always fond of pointing this out. Paul Love never married, but he has a family larger than any of us, both in Punjab and in Madurai. You can see how the students converge on 14 September, his birthday, sit around and narrate Paul Love's stories and recall their memorable time with him. When Paul Love could not travel anymore, it was heartening to see the students visit him just to assure him that they cared. I should mention particularly Guru Chahal and Ivy Chahal, who spent many hours with him in the hospital. It is sheer lucky accident of birth, time and place that has brought us all to American College so that we could experience the legacy of William Zamro and Paul Love. We are indeed blessed by history and we are called upon to create history. I thank Dr. Daumani Christopher for naming the building after Paul Love, the building that houses SCILET. I have heard culture lovers and researchers talk about how India grows on them. Paul Scott's notion of staying on is not just an academic rhetoric. It's a deeply emotional response to an inner call, propels people into institution building. The American College, SCILET, and DakshinaChitra are testimony to this Indo-American bond. I welcome Deborah Thiagarajan again, and I would request her to talk to us about her tryst with India and the building of the ever-evolving DakshinaChitra. Now we'll have a 4-minute video prepared by the SCILET team, prepared by Joel, David, and Pavitra.
That was one wonderful video. Thank you, SCILET friends, for its creation. We, the students of Paul Love, are thankful to Dr. DakshinaChitra, the principal and secretary of this 141-year-old American college, where Paul Love loved and lived. We thank Dr. Christopher for all the help and encouragement that we receive from him year after year. He is also the president of the All India Association for Christian Higher Education, recipient of 2 Best Principal Awards. He is the second mathematician to lead the college. He has known Paul Love for many years, both as a fellow teacher and as an administrator. I request Dr. Christopher to offer felicitations.
Good morning. What we do it in life echoes in eternity. Maximus in Gladiator. Respected, the chief guest of today's program, the 7th Paul Love Endowment Lecture 2022, Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan, grandchildren of Zamro, William Howard Richardson, Michael Austin Richardson, Elizabeth Heidi Ralston, and the great-grandson Michael Dwight Richardson, Principal of Kotte International School, Mr. Corey Stickser, the former Principal of Theological College, Dr. Raja Govindasamy, Vice Principal, Bursar, Deans, the faculty from the American College and other colleges, Ledito College and Meenakshi College and Theological College, and my dear student friends. I feel proud and privileged to be part of this Paul Love Endowment Lecture Series that celebrates the life of Dr. Paul Lender Love, who gave all of himself to the student community of the American College. I am happy to welcome Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan. I have heard a lot about her unique creation of DakshinaChitra. I am personally delighted to welcome Mr. Corey Stickser, the principal, Kodaikanal International School, for his participation in this event. Even though we met earlier, this is the first program that I am having Mr. Corey with this. I hope he will continue to be associated with the American College. I thank him for encouraging SCILET to arrange the annual creative writing workshop in the Kotte School. I am also very happy to see a number of Paul G's students and friends present here, both in life and after. Paul Love helps us all to renew our relationship with the American College. He lived and loved dearly. Paul Love used social medias like Facebook, Insta, WhatsApp, etc. Facebook in particular, but he kept in touch with all his students. Some of his old students from Baring Union Christian College, Batala, used to make their annual visits to Madurai to show off their much loved teacher to their children and children's children. However, it is interesting that Punjab student friends of Paul Love continue to maintain a Facebook group account and a WhatsApp group that they have named Paul Love Fan Club to share their happy memories with Paul Love and the life's lessons they have learned from him. It was heartening to see that a few of the Batala old students, now in higher responsible positions, took turns and spent times with Paul G at his home and in the hospital during his last few weeks and months. Paul Love, he died the way he lived, uncomplaining, acknowledging and appreciating all the help he received from friends, helpers, nurses and doctors. Friends, I have worked in the American College as a teacher in mathematics and in administrative positions as the warden of Zombro Hall, as the bursar, and now as the principal. If I have any regret in life, it is that I was never Paul Love's student. Paul Love's students were a privileged lot and they were aware of their special blessings. As a neighbor, both in Centenary Hall and in the staff quarters, I have watched his function systematically and effectively with all admiration. Eventually, we became good friends. Rarest of rare individuals, Paul Love's life was a message to all. Some of Paul Love's students are my friends as well. They tell me that they will preserve the answer sheets valued by Paul Love along with their mark sheets and degree certificates. Paul G's comments, sometimes longer than their answers, let the views of the students get amplified. This helped improve their self-esteem and self-confidence. Paul G. listened intently to the students when they spoke and listened keenly to their voice and views in their answer sheets as well. Paul Love, he knew that the background of students couldn't determine their skills or capabilities. He believed in them, even when they did not believe in themselves. He could gently sandpaper the rough edges without them being aware. His gentle guidance assured them that success was at a sniffing distance. Success was at a sniffing distance. He gave them hope and that transformed their lives. Paul Love showed exceptional courage in the face of adversity, took jabs with poise, grace, and dignity, always spoke truth to power. People in powerful public positions sought his company, but his heart was always with the students and the support staff. In his ever-open house, the refrigerator was filled with love and food for the hostless. The American College is grateful to Paul Love for establishing a high-quality postgraduate English department and SCILET. I am aware that the greatness is seldom achieved alone. Paul Love depended heavily on and was even inspired by Professor Noyes' enthusiasm and vast knowledge of literature. Together, they set the standards very high for themselves and for others, both in the department and in SCILET. Their volunteerism became a unique way of institution building and a selfless way of serving the academic community in the American College. The quality of a leader is seen not only by what the person has done during the tenure, but also by what happens when he or she moves on. The college is truly grateful to Noyaji also for his unassuming, quiet, but firm leadership. I am certain that SCILET's contributions will continue to enhance the academic profile of the American College. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Pramila Paul, the Director of SCILET, and the SCILET team members for their committed work in taking Paul Love's legacy forward. The college assures SCILET of all help in its attempt at the preservation of archival material that writers continue to give to SCILET. We hope that someday the building of an extension wing of SCILET to house this treasure will become a reality. As the principal of the college, I am happy to welcome all of you, particularly the alumni, to the campus. Do continue to visit the college and strengthen your bond with the department, SCILET, and the college. What we do in life echoes in eternity. God bless.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your memorable experiences that you had with Paul Love. We are glad that Corey Sticksroot, the principal of KAS, is with us. He is a literature enthusiast and shows genuine interest in creative writing. He exudes positive energy, and he is also a strong source of support for the creative writing workshops. May I request Principal Corey to offer his felicitations.
Good morning, everyone. If you had asked me about half an hour ago if I would be addressing this assemblage, I wouldn't have thought that I would be. But I am extremely thankful to the American College Madurai, to SCILET. It's an honor to be here, to hear Deborah today, to meet the Zumbro family who are here. This is truly an honor. You know when you arrive somewhere and you've never been there before, but you feel immediately at home? That's how I feel this morning, just hearing talk about Dr. Paul Love, hearing about the Indo-American relationship. Certainly I feel right at home because I also grew up in South India. I went to Coady School, now called Kodaikanal International School. I was at Jinnapayan as a young kid, so and then I've since come back about 10 years ago, and I admonish SCILET a little bit because I'm confident that they could have gotten a better speaker to come talk about Dr. Paul Love, a student of his who would know him and remember him. And I have an interesting story. I was never a student of Paul's, but he did assess me. There was talk earlier about collaborations, and there is a long-standing collaboration between the American College Madurai and the SCILET program and Kodaikanal International School. And it takes the form of a writing workshop that happens annually. Some of you were just there a few months ago. And as was mentioned, I believe that this collaboration started 30 years ago and continues. And it struck me that I think collaborations sometimes start earlier than what we acknowledge, and they go on long past the time that we think that they do. When I'm going to date myself a little bit. When I was a student, I was a senior at Kodaikanal International School. I'm going to say it was about April of 1986, and I had to wake up early on a Saturday morning to take my International Baccalaureate English higher level oral examination. And we were told where to go. We had to walk up this steep hill and sit on the veranda of an old house. Probably it's where SCILET stays when they come every year. And we were just told where to go, and we were told that a young American was going to assess us for our orals. So I waited with a few other students. We were kind of going in one by one. And then we'd leave by a back door so that we couldn't come around and share any information about the assessment. But it turned out that my IB English oral instructor, the person who gave this assessment, was Dr. Paul Love. And it was truly an amazing experience. He asked me some questions about T.S. Eliot that I had never thought before. I don't think that I did particularly well in this assessment, but I learned a lot more about T.S. Eliot. I learned a little bit more about myself. I appreciate Dr. Crispal's his statement that Dr. Paul Love brought sandpaper to our rough edges, because that exactly describes that experience for me with Dr. Paul Love. I went away understanding why T.S. Eliot entitled that poem Rhapsody on a Windy Night. And I felt like instead of being assessed, which I was, but I felt like it was a learning experience. And I think that that was a gift from Dr. Paul Love. Now, many, many years later, I return as an administrator at Kodaikanal International School. And the first writing workshop that I was able to attend would have been in about the end of July 2013. And who shows up but Dr. Paul Love? And I related this experience to him, and of course he remembered. He remembered coming up to Cody to do the IB orals. He remembered me a little bit. My family had been part of the community, so he remembered us and the family. And I was thankful for that, let's see, over 30, 38, 36 years experience of that IB oral, but then many, many years later to be able to meet him again and thank him for that learning experience. But collaborations continue, memories continue, influences go on. And a couple months ago, when the American College of Madurai students came up for the writers' workshop and our students were there, I know I started off the event and then I had to go and do work and I couldn't do what I really passionately love to do, which is write. But at lunch, a number of you, I'm sure in the audience, you might remember that you had the writing workshop at the Center for Environment, at the Swedish Center. But then you came up to school and you had lunch. And one of you came over, I asked how the morning went, and you said it's great. And you said, I'm very excited about this poem that I wrote. And I said, oh, that's great, could I hear it? And you shared it with me, just something you wrote that morning. And it was brilliant, and I thought that to me signifies the spirit, the memory of Dr. Paul Love. That was kind of in keeping with the spirit of curiosity, of interest, of sharing, because I think that really exemplifies what Dr. Paul Love was all about. So thank you for that, anonymous American college student. And again, I'm just delighted to be here, and I thank SCILET and everyone for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey, for sharing your thoughts on Paul Love.
Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan is a rare gem in the Indo-American heritage. She is a culture keeper. She has walked extra miles, many extra miles, to preserve ancient Indian art traditions. She has unlimited passion for culture and the folk arts of India. Above all, she is a lovable human being. May I request Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan to give the 2022 Paul Love Endowment Lecture.
Happy to be here. I thank American College, SCILET, Camilla Paul, and to all the guests that we have here. I have a long association with Madurai, having married a Madurai man. And I have two children who went to Kodaikanal International School and one grandson who went to Kodai School. So it's a long association. I think I was a very rude shock to my in-laws when I came, because I married into a very conservative Chettiar family. But in the end, with time, everything worked out fine. Now, if you had asked me at age 23, where I spent my life in India, I think I would have been horrified. Because I studied French and German literature in college, and then I spent 2 years on fellowships in Germany and France. And I think what that did actually, when you study another culture's literature, it opens you to the richness and diversity of the peoples in the world. It changes your attitude. So at the end of my grants in Germany, I visited Geneva, Switzerland. And just as a fluke, I said, let me apply for a job. So I applied to the International Labor Office, the ILO, which is an international body. And I was given a job in their library and archival department. And what was I doing? I was editing reports India and Pakistan. And who was my boss? She was a PhD from Oxford, from Sri Lanka. So suddenly, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India came in the focus for me for the very first time. And with that, when I left that job, I went back to the further studies because I knew there was an area in the world that I wanted to visit, and that was Asia. So I ended up in India in 1970, in Madras. And as I said, I married a Madras Madurai man, Deborah Thiagarajan. He was a very creative and empathetic man. Now, two things he said to me. When we arrived in Madras, he said, you know, Debbie, I don't have a life for you in my pocket. You have to make your own life. So he was trying to be supportive, he was trying to make me be reflective of what kind of a role would I want in India? What was I going to do in this country which was not my country? I never forgot that, because that has been with me forever and I've always worked. And as Camilla said, he also said, don't think small, think big. Because when I go astray, he would bring me back. He was really a mentor to me. And so in 1970, of course, it took me time to adjust to India. Now, the story of DakshinaChitra is not just the story of one museum. Have any of you been to DakshinaChitra? You can raise your hands if you have. Okay, just 2 people. Okay, it's 3 people. So I have a few slides. I wish I had brought more. But okay, I'll tell you. Okay. So anyway, the topic is representation and inclusivity. Now, the story of DakshinaChitra is also the story of museums around the world. We are in the second phase of museum growth, both in India and abroad. Why now? There was an earlier phase in the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s. You had the invention of the telephone, you had the car, you had the airplane. That whole industrial revolution created a surge in museums. Now today we have a surge in museums because of globalization, because people are afraid that their identity, their cultural roots are being lost. They have to be preserved. And how will this be done? Also, with the digital generation, visitors' expectations of museums have changed dramatically. They don't want to just see, they want to experience. So a new museum has to be one where there are a lot of participative events and programs that visitors can join in. Now the museum which started it, it's this museum on the screen. It's the Bilbao Museum in Spain. And Bilbao was a manufacturing town in decline, and they had a very creative bureaucracy. The bureaucracy thought of this region. They thought, now what can we do to enhance employment and visitorship in our town? So they decided that if they built an iconic museum, they would bring in tourists, they would bring in tourists, hotels, restaurants, souvenir shops, all kinds of things that a tourist would want. And that's exactly what happened. This museum has been built by the American architect Frank Gehry. It's all out of titanium. There's a railroad line that runs right through the museum because, as I said, it was a port and a manufacturing town. So that started the trend for museums in the world today. So this is a museum in Qatar, a new museum, which traces the history of the tribes in Qatar. And it's one of many, many museums that have come up. But this is a museum in Singapore, and it's actually an underground museum. The notice is only for show, and it has wonderful exhibitions. Singapore has many, many museums, because they realize that if they want to attract people to Singapore to work, then they have to have a very creative entertainment environment, which includes museums, botanical gardens, zoos, so many other aspects. Because entertainment with people having more leisure and more money has become a very important thing. And it's very important to expand your horizons also. This is in Dubai. I think it's just about to open. But you can see that everyone's trying to make iconic museums. Next. Have any of you been to Amritsar? This is a relatively new museum. It's an NGO started by 2 women, but this is a government building. And it talks about the horrors of partition. How India and Pakistan were coming to. And it's a very poignant reminder of the horrors of partition through exhibits through photographs and mementos of people who have gone through that struggle. I'm just showing you some museums in India. The Red Fort on the hill is the Rampart Fort in Jodhpur, Rajasthan, and that's been completely redone, and that's a million visitors a year now. It's very, very wonderful program. This is a Sikh museum, the Khalsa Museum outside of Chandigarh, which tells the history of the Sikhs. And how innovative it is. This is just a handful of many, many museums which are coming up in India. So when you go travel, and I hope all of you travel, because it's only through travel that your horizons can widen. And before marriage, after college, go with a few friends, see India first, because India is a very exciting, wonderful place. You can have 10 lifetimes and not see what's in India. Next one. So there's another one. Okay, this is the newest museum. This is a Bahar museum. It opened in 2017. It was designed by a Japanese architect, very famous architect, Mahi. It's on 24,000 square feet on 13.5 acres. This is just part of an outside courtyard. That's a mandala by Subodh Gupta, one of India's most recognized contemporary artists. But it has collections, absolutely fabulous collections from the warriors. Actually, it was Bihar in which Jainism and Buddhism started. So it's really a plate of India's civilization. It has wonderful collections from 600 BC through the 12th century and also up to modern day. From the Mauryas, the Sungas, the Kushanas, the Gandhara, the Palas. Wonderful, wonderful collections. If you ever get to Patna and Bihar, please do visit it. It's an extraordinary museum. And it's telling you the tale of what is happening in India, what is in its culture. So now let's get back to the story of DakshinaChitra. Okay. An inclusive museum. Why did I make DakshinaChitra an inclusive museum? You know that most museums generally show very elaborate artifacts and glass cases. What I saw in India was that going to the National Museum or Madras Museum, the average Indian could not relate to sculptures which were just set out in cases or just set out without any graphics on them. If you took someone in a National Museum, they have all these colorful sculptures. What would someone from Rajasthan village think about colorful sculptures? Well, they didn't relate to it. So how do you do a museum where people relate and they can feel themselves and their lifestyles in that museum? So when I arrived in Madras, the first job I had was with Madras Institute of Development Studies. And when I say job, I was a volunteer, I didn't get paid. And the head of that institute was Dr. Malcolm Alisesha, who later came on our board. But Dr. Alisesha had been the director of UNESCO, which of course is a cultural organization. He was vice chancellor of Madras University, and then he founded this Institute for Economic Studies. And the first task I was given was to analyze all the data from a survey of Dalits in the Tirunelveli district. And that was really my first introduction to the atrocities of the past. I was saddened by what I read. Then Raj and I moved to Coimbatore, and just before we moved, I took a job with the Tamil Nadu Nutrition Project. And for 2 years, I was in villages 6 days a week. I was interviewing women on what they fed their children from birth to age 2 and then to age 5. And I think it was there that my love for India really grew, because these women were survivors. They had a positive view on life, and there was tremendous poverty. And why did they have this study? It was actually a study on children's nutrition. Because India, Tamil Nadu at that time had 40% wastage and malnutrition among children. And I'm very sad to say that 50 years after this survey, Tamil Nadu, as an advanced, one of the most advanced states in India, still has around 35% wastage and malnutrition among children, despite the fact that we have commissions state level-wise, national wise. But it all depends on the attitudes of women. Women felt that they should not feed their children anything under the age of 2, except maybe some rice. So they never got any vegetables, they never got any fruit, they never got any of the vitamins, vitamin A, B, because all the vitamins which they needed, vitamin C, to make their body and their minds grow. And 90% of your brain is focused, is there by the time you're 2. But basically in the first 6 months of life. But the attitudes were very, very discouraging. And I think today I hope some of you will look at how do we change the situation. Because I was reading the book about Dr. B, the founder of Arvind Eye Hospital, and how he talked about how many blind children there were. Because if you don't get vitamin A, which you get through leafy green vegetables, your cornea melts, and then you're blind for life. But when I was in these villages, so many women would come up to me saying, my child is blind, can you help me? They all thought I was a doctor. And something as simple as giving healing at an early age saves blindness. And as Dr. Lee pointed out, if you have malnutrition, your life expectancy is less. You are more prone to diseases because your immune system is not so good. You're more prone to strokes, you're more prone to diabetes. And all of this, it takes working with women to change attitudes. And I know this is not part of the museum, but it's something that I felt guilty that I went into art, because that was my love, instead of working on malnutrition. Now I'm kind of relating with it. So it was the love that I gained from these women primarily, but I was in homes of all the weavers, the masons, the putties, wood carvers, and if I stayed late, I would be at the festivals. So they gave me an understanding of what India is. And I think, many of you may be from villages, but I think the village experience is a crucial experience for anyone who wants to understand India. Because still, most of the people still live in villages. Then the other factor, of course, was Chettinad. You may know about the Chettiars. The men worked abroad. They worked in Burma and Myanmar. They worked in Malaysia, Vietnam, and Sri Lanka. These are the 4 countries that they worked in. So, because they were in another culture, and they experienced those cultures, when they came back to India, they saw India with new eyes. They saw all the skills of the craftsmen. They saw that the craftsmen were languishing. They were languishing because since the British had taken over, there was no appreciation for Indian art. There was no appreciation for Indian craft. But they understood that it was important. So they put it in all their houses. All the wood carvings, all the stone, all the paintings, all the terracotta, all these artisans were employed to do their houses, and they also renovated many temples using their certain skills. So this was also an understanding I gained as I lived here, and this is how I began to think about someone should set up a museum, because if this museum is not set up, all these skills will disappear, because if people are not appreciated, if the craftsmen and the performing artists are not appreciated, if their skills are looked down upon, then why should they continue? Why should their children continue? So it was, when India gained independence in 1947, a colonial mindset doesn't just leave you overnight. It takes quite a few decades. And so it wasn't until the 1980s that students began to look at their own culture. Okay, who are we? We're not British, we're not Western. So what is our culture? Who are we? And I think identity is one of the main reasons that we set up DakshinaChitra. Also because people didn't appreciate art, Indian art. And so if I set up everyday art in an upmarket setting like a museum, then maybe people will stand up and realize their aesthetics, their art has value. And I think that's what's happened today. Now, okay, you can go. So, as none of you have been here, I've just got a few slides on DakshinaChitra. DakshinaChitra is on a 10-acre campus, which I finally, after years of work with the Tamil Nadu government, and going almost every day to the Secretariat for 1 year, they gave 10 acres of land to us. And on this I have 19 historical houses. It's what we call an open-air museum, because our exhibitions are set in historical houses, which come from houses from about 1850 to 1900. And the craftsmen in different houses have just been the same here. So this is a Chettinad house, about 1890. This is an exhibition in the Chettinad house in 1890. This is a weaver's house inside a particular weaver's house. That's our exhibition. What we did was we did 8 years of research, because you can't set up a museum without a lot of research. So we did 2 years of architectural research in each state. We got a grant to develop Krishna handicrafts for this. And we went from stem to stern in each of the states, looking at architectural prototypes. What were the architectural styles that were prevalent in different regions? And then we chose houses which were reflective of the architectural style in about 80 to 120 villages. So they're what we call archetype architecture types. This is a terrace here in Crispin House. Actually, we have water only during the monsoon in those canals. This is a Calicut house, a Madurai family of linens. There's a lot of material casts in Darwin. This is actually a granary. You can see because of the round arches that it has a little bit of colonial influence. It's from the turn of the century. And it's actually part of the Syrian student complex. This is a Chicago house, it's a Muslim house. This is one of the exhibitions. Each house has many different exhibitions. This man happened to own a small shop, and he bought everything from Bombay. This is the kitchen in a weaver's house we have in the Warga district, in our Madras district. And this is what we call a typical house. This is a house form which is about 2,500 years old. It's on the coast of Andhra Pradesh. It's around circular pattern so that when there are cyclones, the wind will go around it instead of being on the roof. It has a lot of climatic ways. So these are just some of the houses in some of the exhibitions which we have at DakshinaChitra. As I said, we have 19 houses. We're putting up a Kerala Muslim house now. because we wanted to show we're in harmony with three religions. 21% is Muslim, 23% is Christian, and the rest is Hindu. So we have each one of those sects represented. Commonality, we looked at the occupations, from merchants and business people to agriculturists to Brahmins to laborers to craftspeople, like that. So each state area will have a different form to be used. So what do we have at DakshinaChitra? We have every day our crafters are about 20 craftspeople. And maybe half of them are from the south, and the other half are from different parts of India. The father is from Orissa, and the mother is from Madras. This is Deborah, who is a freedom fighter, is our leader. Next one. We do, besides all the craftspeople we have, we bring, I think we're the only institution that's concentrating on folk performing artists. And we have brought in at least 50 different varieties of folk arts from the south. South is very, very rich in folk arts. We brought in 24 different varieties just from Karnataka alone. And we document them, we do them, we introduce. Because, again, unless they get appreciation, unless they get platforms, unless they can be brought up to date on what people want, they will disappear. And they are part of our intangible culture. And very important to the creativity of India, because a lot of the creativity which we see in urban centers actually originates from the village. Because that is the hub of creativity. And now we're going back and forth between urban and rural migration. You can see a lot of interplay of both rural and urban. So this is a group from Andhra Pradesh, a tribal group. This you must all recognize. You know what it is? It's Tamil. It's a Tamil group. It's still good. Sweet with Over 45 different troops from Village around the earthquakes, and they usually do the Madurai. So these are the normal troops. Deborah Thiagarajan. Actually, Sanskrit and the past principle is a nice book on anyway. Okay, this is what between from Kerala. This is how Keralites were taught about Kudiyagam and Kathakali. Because they would come, the puppeteers would come to the houses and do performances and tell the stories, so that when they went to the main performance, the children would have already understood what was happening. This is KM, a very important ritual folk art in northern Kerala. This is all from Karnataka. All the different communities have their own folk arts. And they're very exciting, and they must be studied. One more is the Deborah. They use the real frames in Kerala. And we do a lot of children workshops. We have a lot of activities with children. We have about 45,000 kids a year. We have a full education department. So we have about 20 activities that any child visiting the museum can do every day. Just some of them. What's the matter? Next. Yeah, hope we found because the more you use your hands, the more you do craft, the more you sensitize your eyes. You realize how important and how difficult it is to actually create something that's good. So I said, we have all kinds of activities with small kids. We're thinking from Sherala, this is an Andhra. We do a lot with challenged children. This is a workshop for autistic children. So once a year we bring in different things with autistic children. We have some of them are very creative, artistically and we have exhibitions of their work. These kids are all cancer survivors. So every year we have a weekend where they stay overnight with their parents and they get to experience what it's like now to go back to a normal life. We've all just come out of college. So we have a lot of special programs. I hope I'm not boring you with all this. So in order to engage people, to make them aware of issues, we do many special programs, and we do them on an annual basis. So here you're seeing 5 women, 3 Muslim and 2 Hindu, from a village in Tamil Nadu. They are recipients of microcredit loans. And that's say my husband actually founded the first microcredit organization in Tamil Nadu. It's based on the pattern of from Bangladesh, where you bring a group of 20 women together and they guarantee each other's loans. And today, it's a Madras microcredit. Today, it's in 26,000 villages in 3 states and has 426 centers. And it's been, I told you about my work in the villages in 1972. I think it's been the most exciting thing that has happened to women in the last 50 years. Because these women now earn money, they are benefactors to their family, they have a role in their family, and they are appreciated as a person. They have suddenly developed their own self-worth. And I think that microcredit is a very key function that is very important. And it's not spread throughout the world. His model works even in the U.S. It works throughout the world. How do you get small loans to people who have no collateral or credit? How do they come up? And so many women, because women tend to be much more focused on their family and they utilize the money properly. Next. That is actually part of we do an annual program for women's rights. Now I know that SCILET does a lot of these programs, so I'm probably repeating some of the programs in the college, but we look at the challenges women face, women's rights, and this is an exhibition which we did in collaboration with a research project with McGill University. We have many collaborative projects with universities and museums around the world. This was 2 women who lived in Madras from 1801 to 1808, the William sisters. They were wonderful artists and they were wonderful correspondents. So they left a lot of literature on what life was like in Madras in the early 1800s. So we said, okay, the William sisters have documented what they saw in the early 1800s. Now, this woman is Rekha. She was our library assistant. She's from a fisherman's family. She loves photography. We said, Rekha, you photograph the women you see today in all walks of life. And let's see how it's changed. And she's done a brilliant job showing the character of each of the women through her photographs. And I think that she's received a fellowship from the Chennai Biennale, Photo Biennale, to improve her photography. We do a Children's Literature Festival. Now, what you're seeing here are we sent out a request to 75 schools, but their kids send us essays and reflections of their life or poetry. We got 590 entries. So then we had a jury of 3 women who work in children's literature. And a publisher published a small booklet free of charge for us of the 63 final entries. And what you see are, it was from age 6 to 18. And what you see are some of the kids sitting with Asif Ali. Asif Ali is a supporter. He's the Prince of Arcot. And he's been very interested in education and music. As part of this Lit Fest, we also have quizzes. We have 88 teams. Everything we do in Tamil and English. So we're completely bilingual. So half of the elementaries, the essays are in common after English. We have one quiz in common, we have one quiz in English. Because I think your mother tongue is a key aspect of your personality, the way you think. And I hope the common continues and doesn't lose track. Bilingual English and Tamil is fine, you need to have Hindi fine, but make sure that your Tamil is good. We have now, museums have been asked internationally to address the problem of climate change. So we had our first festival of water. We looked at what the Cholakins had done to conserve water in 1,000 years ago. We looked at the Yeti system, that's the man-made tanks that are all interconnected in Tamil Nadu. And that's been studied scientifically now and considered one of the best ways of conserving water. It's all, if you look at a map of Tamil Nadu, it goes from tank to tank to tank to tank, they're all interconnected. And we just received a grant from the U.S. Council, $50,000 grant to do a permanent exhibition on climate change and the function of nature and climate, and nature and culture. Last weekend, for 2 weekends, we had a Dalit festival. It was on Dalit literature and Dalit documentary films, art, a wonderful art exhibition and theater, Dalit theater. And during the week, when we do these programs on weekends, our education team takes aspects of the programs for the school students during the week. So these are, we have a lot of other programs too. This is we open up free of charge to the villages around us because we're 27 kilometers south from Madras. We're on the East Coast Road on the way to Mahabalipuram. So this is a kabaddi competition. And we have a grandparents' day, we have all of that. So many things that we do. So how did it all start? We didn't have any land, we didn't have any money, we didn't have any collections. So how could I even think of setting up a museum? So I established the Craft Foundation as a society in 1984. I didn't know how to do a society. So one of my friends said, we go to an auditor, you write down what is your mission, what are your objectives, and then look at what a society needs. With booklets on how to do a society. So I founded a society with 6 other friends who were interested in culture. And that's how we started in 1984. We didn't get our land until 1991. But those 7 years actually gave us a lot of time to reflect on what we wanted, what were the goals of what we were trying to do. And we got small grants to study folk performing arts, and craft, which we do with architecture. And we also, because we didn't have any money, we couldn't pay anybody. So we had a whole group of volunteers. And I think the Madras community was amazing because we had retired men, a chartered and cost accountant who were in all our accounts. And when you do anything with business which requires money, accounting is key. You have to get your accounts straight. You have to be transparent, you have to get them straight. We had a man who was vice president of an international company who did early retirement, who had health problems. He put in all our admin systems. Then one day I had gone to the president of Larsen and Toubro. When you're fundraising or when you want something from a company, go to the top. Because the people at the top are always accessible. That's how they got where they are. They're happy to listen to you. So I was talking to Mr. Ramakrishnan, and I said, I can't find anyone to help me with architecture. Because we're 27 kilometers away, and back then, no one went out that far in the grass. What did I think to do? I was also trying to do construction myself. And he said, he called one of his colleagues who just retired, who done major turnkey projects for L&T around the world. And then Mr. Sharma joined us again pro bono, and he worked with us for 8 years. And that's really how we were able to bring up a lot of the architecture. And then we had Laurie Baker, who was our architect. Mr. Baker, who also is pro bono, he is, I would say, an architect of the masses. He has earned many, many accolades around the world because he understood vernacular architecture and how to build houses safely with much less cost. He became very popular in Kerala, in Japan. He didn't take so much in Tamil Nadu, but he became very popular. And now his associate, which was his assistant research team, and the career course has taken his legacy forward with us. Then we had a group of 6 women, all very smart, none of them had worked. And basically I think my job throughout all of institution building has been mentorship. How do you get people to be self-confident? How do you get people to understand their potential and to realize that potential? So one woman set up a craft shop, one woman helped with exhibitions. She was very creative, and she was very creative with food. And one person helped with bringing in VIP guests. One person helped with publicity. One person helped with contacting all the tourism agencies and seeing how we can get people to come to DakshinaChitra, because as I said, we were 27 kilometers south of the city. And it did take us 8 years to get a substantial exhibition, because we didn't have any money to advertise. So all of this, through all our volunteers, now, before COVID and even now, we're getting over 250,000 visitors a year. We're self-sustaining in operations and salaries. We don't charge very much for people to come in. And we give all these programs in craft and the performing arts programs, such as the legal entrance fee, which is 150 rupees for an adult, 75 for children. And I can say it's been a very wonderful journey. I'm no longer the director of the museum. There is a director who's been there now through COVID, SCILET, and we have a director of culture, and the Puram. And my job is to draw, documentary, and I'm leading. And it's been, I would say, a very fruitful, happy journey. This is a map of what it looks like today. It doesn't have the Kerala house on it. And we also purchased a Kurk house, a 170-year-old Kurk house. You have to raise money to put up. Museums are always a challenge. You have to constantly be relevant to your communities. You have to constantly understand issues and bring them forward. And I would say this journey has enriched me tremendously. I've been very happy in India. I think it's one of the most creative countries in the world. And it's also one of the most humanistic countries in the world, where there is still a wonderful connection between people. If you go abroad, you will realize that that connection is not there anymore. It's all been severed. There's a lot of isolationism among people in the West. A lot of people live alone. And when you come back to India, you realize, wow, we have so much that the West doesn't have. So please take a look at your culture. Realize that you're very privileged to live in a country like this. Travel as much as you can within India, understand your culture and all the different diversity of the peoples here, because it's a very exciting mission to be in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan, for your breathtaking work in the field of culture and folk art.
There was one question. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, perhaps Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan can be seated there. Now you have a chair on the stage and you could receive the questions. Thank you for your inspirational talk that has made us realize the importance of museums. When we come across a genius like you, Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan, who has abiding faith in the spirit of this ancient land and who has highly developed artistic sense we feel that our country has come into its own in the field, in the world of art. Thank you once again. Friends, Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan has consented to answer a few questions. The floor is now open.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Rania. So I believe that DakshinaChitra was started in 1996, if I'm correct. So looking back to that year, the need to preserve culture and heritage was very poor. Would you say that this preservation methods have substantially increased throughout the years from the government side as well?
I don't think the government is doing enough. That Bahar Museum was set up by the Bahar government, not with the central government. I also didn't mention how we got our finances. Our finances, the first grant we got was from the Development Commissioner of Handicrafts in New Delhi, and I had given them proposals, and I told them, for every rupee you give me, I will match it by 1 rupee through donations. And so they gave me 40 lakhs, and I raised 80 lakhs from that 40 lakhs. And then, and my whole team, as I said, we were all volunteers. Everybody helped fundraise. So corporates came forward to give. If you have a focused, clear idea, people do give. In any case, we got from 1991, when we started building, to 2001, we received 1.49 crores from the Development Commissioner Handicrafts in New Delhi, and I raised over 3 crores to put up the buildings. Now it would cost much more. Now it's much more. But how much this has helped, I'm not sure. But I think what I noticed, I showed you the slide of Terracotta troupe, and they told me that they wanted to stop their performances. But then Padma Subramaniam, who's a Bharatanatyam dancer, she went to them and she said, you are part of India's culture treasure. You have to continue. And just that little bit of enthusiasm, that little bit of validation has made those troops continue through all these years. So a lot of it has to be person to person. You know, when you see something that you feel is good, you have to compliment them. You have to appreciate them, because what do people want? They want dignity. They want validation that what they're doing is good. I think we can do a lot more. I think Kerala has done much more than Tamil Nadu. We've lost a lot of our culture, but I think there's still hope. There's still a lot around. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
It was wonderful listening to you on the story of DakshinaChitra, ma'am. I have a question for you. I believe art has more meaning apart from what it ideally means to convey. It has more life to it. But how do you relate art to life and life to art?
How do I relate life to art and art to life? Life is art. What can I say? Every day is a special day for art. And I think the creativity in your own mind. So art doesn't have to be visual art, it doesn't have to be music, but these are all things which basically stimulate us and give us a sense of the glory of what life is, really. Because without art, what would we be? You know, we wouldn't have anything, whether it's architecture, whether it's, you know, flora, fauna, you name it, nature. All of this is part of art. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you for being here today, ma'am. Your talk has been incredibly interesting and enlightening. I'm Dorothy, and what I would like to know is, could you please elaborate on your research process that went into the creation of DakshinaChitra, and also talk about your favorite aspect of research?
The theory aspect.
Your favorite aspect of research.
Okay. Well, you can't do anything that's academic. I mean, a museum is an academic institution. Museums have to show culture as authentically as they possibly can. Representation can never replace what is actually in situ, in a village. So we only took houses which were going to be demolished, because we do believe that you have to keep the culture particularly in place. Now, what was your question again?
Your favorite aspect of research?
Research, as I said, we put teams together, and we did 2 years of research for each state in architecture. And when we were doing the architecture, of course, we were going into houses, we were interviewing people in the houses, and we researched from the smallest hut to the largest palace, because you see a lot on evolution and how architecture grows if you do that. And in interviewing all the people, we learned about their lifestyles, we saw what was in the houses. A lot of people gave us artifacts. We purchased them at that time in the 80s. Things were very, very cheap. Now they're very expensive. But it was, without research you can't do anything. We have a library of 15,000 books. We have an internship program I didn't talk about. But we take 10 interns a year for 12 months. And they have 2 days of academic classes on art, also budgeting, finance, proposal writing. And for the other 4 days, they work in the different departments. We give them 10,000 rupees a month. It's been funded by the Murugappa group, a Tamil group. And so they pay for all the costs of the internship. And we've been doing this for 15 years. 2 of our interns have had Fulbright grants afterwards, and they've all gone to be successful in areas of arts. Most of the people who join the internship program know they want to do something in the arts, but they don't know what they want to do. And so this helps them to decide what area of art they like. Do they like to do event management, programming? Do they like to do collections management? Do they like to do education, administration? They're all different areas of art. And so that year sort of clarifies for them the direction they want to take. It's been a very informative year, and we have, as I said, we take 10 students a year. We get about 90 applications, and it's been a very successful program. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Indian Andrews. So I was just wondering how you brought your dream of DakshinaChitra to life.
How did I?
Bring your dream of DakshinaChitra to life.
How did I bring it to life?
Yeah.
It was hard. It takes a lot of perseverance. There were times when I thought, oh God, I'm just not going to be able to do this. But because we had so many good volunteers, and everything grows step by step. You don't build a wall without starting in the first layer of bricks. So I think, I think it was the kids. Before we opened, because we had 7 years, we worked in schools all the time. And we brought in folk performing arts into the schools, and we worked with teachers. And we did that, 4 days a week, because we had the building was going on at DakshinaChitra. And when we opened, it was the children who came from the schools to see DakshinaChitra, and then they brought their parents back. And slowly, as I said, it took 8 years before we really became known in Madras. And very luckily, we had a grant from the Ford Foundation. It has nothing to do with the Ford Motor Company, but it was founded by Henry Ford, who started the Ford Motor Company. And that grant helped us to pay salaries and programs. So with that grant, we could bring in a lot of programs, which otherwise we could not have. So I think Indian foundations and Indian government, they have to do much more with understanding that when you set up an institution, you need long-term funding. You can't just have 6-month or 1-year funding, which is what the central government normally gives. And it's, fundraising, it's not easy, but it's what has to be done. I know SCILET also fundraises. So I think in the arts and education, fundraising is something that is an integral part of it.
Madam, can I have a question, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, before asking my clarification, I must especially thank for your presentation. As a student of economics, I'm able to understand the multidisciplinary of the museum, involving all the disciplines. The first point, as a museum expert, can you explain the gender role, women in museum, women and museum? First clarification.
Okay.
Second one, it's a more specific question because you have a much experience in Chetty community. In Indian culture, Chetty is known for finance. Do you have any specific point to make to the audience how Chetty culture is known to the world through finance, finance and development? Because the first finance minister from Chettinadu, Chanmugam Chetty, to Chidambaram Chetty, that influences the Chetty culture into finance. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the first one for gender. The U.S. in particular was very gender biased. I remember we had a conference on museums in Delhi, and there were 3 museum directors from the U.S., and they were all male. And I was listening to them as they got in a vehicle, and they said, you know, these were women who organized this, and they did a good job. You know, like they were amazed that women could actually pull off something. And I think that's changed a lot. I think now in the US, there are a number of women directors of museums. I'm sure it's still male-oriented, but slowly, gender is changing. Women have to understand their own potential and put themselves forward. And I think that is key. And as far as the Chettiars go, yes, they're known for finance and development. It's a very small community. It's only it's 1.25 lakh people. And quite a few of them have settled abroad now. So, as I said, I think they honed their artistic skills by looking at a different culture, looking at the cultures of Southeast Asia, and then coming back and reflecting on their own culture. Because when you go out of a country, out of your culture, you see your own culture very differently. You see much more of the richness of your culture when you come back. And so I think that's how they honed their artistic eye. And then they had the finances to build the houses. Now they're trying to, in the independence, all the Chettiars came back because there was a backlash against people who had lent finance during the Second World War because many people went into debt. And so most of the Chettiars returned to India. I would say 99% of them returned to India, and they had to make their way here. It wasn't easy for them, but you hear about them, you hear about that small handful because they were in banking, they were in plantations, they were in textiles. These were the 3 areas they were mainly in, and financing. Any other questions? Yeah?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Satya Ruban. I have visited DakshinaChitra when I was a little kid, and I remember painting little pots. Ma'am, my question is, what makes DakshinaChitra attractive to youngsters, and what makes it unique that people should visit DakshinaChitra more than once? I mean, again and again.
Yeah, people do come back again and again. I think it's because we're always doing something different. We change our contemporary art. We have 2 galleries for contemporary art. We change them every month. We have different folk performers all the time. And maybe also, I think people just want to get away. And it's a lovely environment so you can relax. When you go back to a traditional environment, you just automatically feel relaxed. Because there's no big cement high-rises around you. There's a lot of greenery. When we started, there was nothing, but now it's full of greenery. Actually, last week, Oroville brought 60 indigenous rare trees for us to plant. So I think we've planted 24 of them so far. So we have a lot of collaborations with different organizations. And I think these collaborations are very key because they give a platform for the organization we're collaborating with to bring in new audiences to them, and they expand what we can do. So the more collaborations we have, the more active we become. And kids particularly like us. In fact, I've had about five men and 2 women come back and tell me that they came again and again to DakshinaChitra, and they were so inspired that they have now made their careers in the arts. Now, some of them do event management, but culturally, but they've all gone into the art, and they've all gone in because they've come back again and again to DakshinaChitra. That makes me feel very, very happy. So.
Thank you, participants, and thank you, Dr. Deborah, for answering those questions with so much of enthusiasm. Now, we would love to thank and honor Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan. I request Dr. Raja Govindaswamy, former principal and former HOD of the Department of English, Thiagaraja College of Arts, to honor Dr. Deborah Thiagarajan with a memento. We'll now thank Dr. Deborah with a huge round of applause. It's now time to thank and honor the other dignitaries for being here with us. William Howard Richardson is a grandson of the visionary principal Zambro. Zambro, as you already heard, was the second principal of the American College during the years 1899 to 1922. William Howard Richardson had been in various management positions. He defies his age with adventure travel, backpacking, hiking, and scuba diving. I request Ganesh Babu to honor William Howard Richardson with a memento. Michael Austin, grandson of Reverend Zambro. Michael Austin excelled in swimming, winning the Illinois State Championship during his high school days. He has made a movie about an arbitration case that he won against the New York Stock Exchange specialist firm. His love for his wife, Rena Fernandez, is larger than all his achievements. According to him, in his privileged life, his wife Rena had been the best part. I request Somasundaram to honor Michael Austin Richardson with a memento. Elizabeth Heidi Richardson, Ralston, is a granddaughter of Reverend Zambo. She is named after her mother, who grew up at the American College campus till the age of 12. Elizabeth Heidi Richardson Ralston had been on governing boards of many schools, churches, and numerous other organizations. She was a president of the board of the Financial Women's Association in New York City. She, much like her brother, is into traveling, hiking, winter skiing, and yoga. Her interest in educational administration is remarkably similar to Reverend Zambro's. I request Jayalakshmi to honor Elizabeth with a memento. We are very happy that a third generation Zambro could join us in this celebration. Michael Dwight Richardson is a great grandson of Reverend Zambro. He obtained his postgraduate degree from Illinois State University in geography with a focus on urban planning. He is a supervising planner. I now request Bavitra to honor Michael Dwight Richardson with a memento. Ganesh Babu, Somasundram, Jayalakshmi and Bavitra are a valuable SCILET team. Now may I request Dr. David, Assistant Professor of English, Gandhigram University, closely associated with Paul Love, to honor Mr. Corey, Principal of Kodaikanal International School, with a memento. Thank you, everybody. Let us meet again for the Paul Love Endowment Lecture in September 2023. Wishing you all an exhilarating academic journey. Good afternoon.